Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a very exciting day. I'm down here at Swift Performance in Aylesbury and I'm picking up my M2 competition that has been off the road for about 10 months now. It is ready to go, and in fact it's better than ever, not just because the engine's been rebuilt and there's been a few bits and pieces upgraded. Russ has been up to a little bit of mischief in the last week that I've had this car here since the last video update. So I walked in today completely unaware, but he has not only improved and sorted out an armrest issue that I had. So essentially, because I'm now running the standard shifter back in there and I've got a slightly lower driving position, the armrest, the stock armrest, just gets in the way. In fact, it even gets in the way in a manual M2 comp that hasn't been modified. It's just too bulky and too thick. So he's managed to customize a piece of plywood with some lovely black felt or carpet on it that fits perfectly. It looks very OEM in there, and most importantly, it means that I've got an extra 2 inches or so of space below my elbow. And the next thing he's done that I wasn't aware of until I walked in this morning is installed the Swift Performance seat delete. So essentially, where my cage is, because I don't have rear seats in there anymore, it was very, let's say, race car, which I kind of didn't mind, but then I've seen Russ's beautiful M2 that's been finished off. So he's installed that comes with a lovely SP, Swift Performance logo. But not only that, this is the first car to have an illuminated logo. It's not illuminated all the time, it illuminates when you unlock the car. So a bit like the M badges in the seats when you come and unlock your modern M car. This car doesn't have them anymore because it's got Recaros. When the interior light turns on, the SP lights up. So it's such a lovely finishing touch. Once again, massive, massive thanks from the bottom of my heart to Swift Performance, to Russ, to Tim, to Josh, and more recently to Fabian for most of the engine work. I can't tell you how grateful I am of what they've done. And the reason it's taken so long, as I've talked about in previous videos, is I decided to put the car into storage for about 5 or 6 months during much of the winter, just because I didn't have any use for it. I've thankfully, gratefully got another car. I get press cars all the time, but I'm glad that I've been patient and I'm glad that I'm picking it up today, and I've already got a track day booked. You join me about an hour later and I've driven the car down to one of my favourite local roads. We've spent some time in Aylesbury traffic, we've spent some time on the M40 motorway, and we've spent the last half hour or so along some brilliant A and B roads. We've also spent some time in just about every weather you could ever imagine. Sunshine, rain, and the most hail I think I've ever seen in my life. I was really worried when the hail started coming down because I thought it would be just my luck that I finally picked this car up for the first time in 10 months or whatever it's been, and then the hail comes down and damages the bodywork. But thankfully it wasn't that big hail, it wasn't that heavy. It was light or small sized hail, but just loads of it. I had to pull over, stop, because it was all over the surface of the road. Anyway, most important thing is we got here, I got here, and the car got here without any issues whatsoever. Of course, I had full trust in Swift Performance, and I know that Fabian also took this out for a thorough test drive, but you just never know, do you? It's been sitting around for a long time. The engine's been stripped down to nuts and bolts. There was so much taken out of the front area of this car. You never know if there's going to be any small niggling issues, and well, so far there's been absolutely nothing. The car has been running like an absolute dream. It's so nice to get back behind the wheel of this wonderful M2. Remember, Joe, it's cold and you're on pretty new Cup 2s. I was only on this road a couple of weeks ago in my M3 raving about winter tyres and how important they are. Now I'm back here in similar weather in my M2 on massively wide Cup 2s, but the car and the chassis are talking to me. I know what's going on. This F-Series Generation M car has got more steering feel than the current G-Series, and that's really important when the grip levels are super low. Also, I do have a little bit of temperature in the tyres. Just before I switched the cameras on, I went out and checked them out because I don't have tyre pressure monitor systems on them anymore, so I can't see that from inside the car. Just got to rely on my feel. Today and the next few days are all about essentially running this car back in again, because Fabian has put brand new oil and an oil filter back in, obviously, and the idea is I do 200 to 300 mix miles in it and take it back to Swift next week. They'll drop this oil out and replace the filter, replace the oil, and that is when I can really push the car. So essentially just like you would do, oh, Volkswagen Phaeton, that's cool, just like you would do with a modern day M car, just like I'm going to do with my M3 Touring. That's just about coming up for its running service at 1200 miles. They'll drop the oil out of that as well, so same. I can't remember if I talked much about what we did in terms of the gear shifter unit in this car. So we've removed the PS design shifter and the custom linkage that Russ made me for that shifter, and I'm glad to see the back of it, if I'm being honest. I put my hand up and blamed me for the misshift originally, but that shifter certainly didn't help me in the process, and I'm glad to see an original shifter back in the cockpit of this car. Number one, because I think it looks really good, it looks OEM, it suits this car. This shifter and gator is the same one that's been around for many generations of M cars. In fact, it's the same one that's in the brand new G87 M2, so I think that's really cool. But what we have replaced is the rear bush that sits at the back of the linkage, the shifter. So stock, it's quite a rubbery bushing, and that's kind of what you feel when you jump in a BMW manual for the first time. It's quite a rubbery shift. People talk about it, I've talked about it in the past. Replacing that bushing has done wonders for the shift motion of this car. It doesn't feel as good as a Porsche GT4 box, that's for sure. It's not that metallic, it's not as good as a Civic Type R, but it's certainly bridged the gap between, let's say, a stock F87 M2 manual gearbox and something like the Type R gearbox. It feels so much better, so much more precise. Those rubbery edges have been sharpened up and everything just feels better. We've also taken out the clutch delay valve, which basically means everything feels a bit more natural, and when you release the clutch you get a much quicker release. If you release it really quickly, it will drop the clutch really quickly, whereas the standard unit slows that sort of motion down a little bit in order, I think, to make your shifting a little bit smoother. But in reality, if you're handy with your manuals or you're used to your manuals, it doesn't need to be there. So those two have made a huge difference. Something else we talked about in the intro is this wonderful wonderful blank that Russ has made. It's velcroed, so you can just get in there no problem. You can still store things in there, my house keys, my sunglasses, charging cable are in there, my wallet. But it looks great, and it's now out the way of my elbow, so third into fourth, the stock one would be in the way, and that's part of the reason I got the PS design shifter in the first place, was because it lifted my arm up a little bit. But now I don't need to worry about that because my elbow's nowhere near that. In order to aid that situation a little bit more, we've also lifted this driver's seat up a little bit, up 1 notch at the front, 1 notch at the back, which is probably about 1 inch in total. So I am closer to the roof. Not as close as I would be in a stock seat, because I mean that was one of the reasons I put these seats in the first place, but low enough that I can easily wear a helmet. I'm not going to have any fouling up there, but high enough so that again the shifting's really good, and the driving position, especially on the road, is really natural, really good. In fact, it feels like I've jumped straight out of my G81, or straight into my G81 Touring, which I did jump straight out of when I picked this car up. And that car has a perfect driving position with the carbon buckets. When they're set as low as possible, it is spot on for me and my lanky frame. This now is absolutely perfect. I could just see the bonnet. I can place the car really well on the road, but yet I am sitting a good 1.5 inches lower, maybe 2 inches than the stock seat. And obviously I'm far more supported, and I'm far more connected to the chassis of the car. I can feel a lot more of what's going on beneath me, so I don't have to rely just on the steering feel. I can rely on my buttock to tell me what is going on with the chassis and the grip levels. All in all, with the steering wheel spacer as well, I mean, I have just got the world's best driving position. I'm not just saying that, it really is absolutely spot on. We adjusted it slightly this morning with Russ. I moved it forward 1 notch, which is probably, I don't know, maybe 1 centimetre or something, and just feel absolutely bang on in here, really do. On longer journeys, I can move the steering column forward a little bit to give me a bit more room to play with, but on spirited drives or when I take it on track, I can bring the wheel even a bit closer if I need to, just to get that control. And I'll tell you what, I couldn't be happier. I think for this last bit, I'm just going to enjoy the car, enjoy the drive. It feels great having this back, it really does. I'm sure I look extra happy on camera, especially compared to how I've been over the last couple of months. I know I've looked a bit drained and maybe not the happiest on camera, but this car, it's really put a smile on my face, a genuine smile. I love it. I really love being back in this car. I've almost fantasized about this day, and although it is cold, it is wet, it is slippery, it hasn't ruined it for me at all. It really hasn't. Oh, what a car. It's just fabulous, this car. Absolutely fabulous. What the boys have done down at Swift is just next level. They've been so patient with me during the build stage in 2022. It takes a lot of work for them who are running a business to line up dates that work with me so I can come down and film. And yeah, they might not say I get in their way, but I do get in their way. I slow the process down, and that's been the same with this rebuild process, more recently with Fabian and stuff. But they've worked around me, and I know that my videos are obviously good for them as well, so it kind of works both ways. But they've just been awesome. They've been so good. They are so passionate, and they love what they do. They all love their jobs. I was talking to Fabian earlier on. He's just been away on holiday, and I got the sense that he couldn't wait to get back to work, and that's just such a great thing. I'm lucky in that sense that I can't wait to go out and film most of the time. Maybe not during the winter months so much, but during the summer months. And it's great to see that at Swift. They are so busy in there. Every time I go down there, even if it's like the next day or a couple of days later, there's 5 or 10 new, mostly M cars up on the stands or in the car park area, and they just got a constant flow of great customers, like-minded people. The amount of cool people that I've met down there, even in the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's just awesome. Such a great thing to see to such great people. And I know I do bang on about Swift Performance a lot, but they are brilliant. And what they've done with this car, even turning up today when I walked in, and Russ was so excited to see me and my reaction to, well, the rear bulkhead there with the illuminated sign that if I turn this light on, let's see if you can see it, it's going to be hard because the sun's just there. Oh, in fact, that camera's probably not going to get it at all because the seat's in the way. But the illuminated SP on the back there, which looks wicked, and also the fact I've got a bulkhead there now, the boot can be filled up with normal gear. And I know that sounds a little bit trivial, but when you don't have anything there, you've got a rear cage, you've got to strap everything down because otherwise it comes flying forward when you're driving. So I've now got my normal boot back, and this, such a simple thing, but it does such a good job. It's so effective. It's unbelievable. Really, really cool. Happy days. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Massive thanks for the support and love around this rebuild series. Stay tuned for more content coming soon, especially on this car. The story does not finish there. This is my baby. I own this car, and I'm looking forward to doing more with it in the not so distant future. Thanks again to everyone at Swift Performance. I'll see you another video very soon. Cheers.